Thank you. It's wonderful to be here, and it's an enigma for us too. So if we haven't sufficiently confused you by the end of our time together, we will not have done our job. But we're really excited to be here today. Pete, I've had the privilege of working with some really terrific and talented people, entrepreneurs, and others over the years, and Peter is truly exceptional, as is the team that he and Justin are building. So it's a real privilege for us to be with you today. In terms of, so what we're going to do is we're going to begin with a little overview of engagement, and then we're going to move into why we're so excited about this sector and this space, and how it ultimately, how the sort of the macro trending is intersecting with what we're building. So as we flip to the next slide, we begin, of course, with this idea of engagement. And at Augeo, even before we move into the world of blockchain, there's sort of three pillars that sort of sit underneath our foundation or philosophy when it comes to engagement. The first is we always begin with the individual. You know, we think about the individual benefit, both economically and emotionally. And when you look across the globe, literally, most of our competitors begin and end with individual benefit, emotional, experiential, economic. But the second one that's really powerful for us is we call group validation or group effect, and it's more than social sharing. In other words, if we're trying to drive a behavior through an individual, how do we enable that individual to see others like him or her doing the same thing? And when we're successful with doing that, our programs just fly. And the third is core values. If it's a sustainability program, ESG program, the values of the company, if it's an employee program, how can we really embed those values so they're not just so we're not just talking to them, but they're actually embedded in the program itself. And we found when these are our pillars, even pre-2007, the invention of the iPhone, we have clients that date back for 20 plus years. It's a privilege for us. It's because these pillars drive our platform, not our product, but our platform and our thinking. So when we think about blockchain, right, and we think about money, so money is a very social construct, right? In addition to being a governmental construct. And when you think about Web 1.0, even Web 2.0, social networks are not equitable. In other words, when you participate in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Be Real, which I think I'm going to do, by the way, because my daughter's insisting I do it, we don't necessarily benefit economically. What's unbelievable, truly amazing about blockchain is that where you participate, not only is it a social construct, but it's an economic construct. So the first time in the history, literally, of the globe, it's a meme technology that can drive behavior in ways that we can't even begin to anticipate. And that's why when we think about loyalty and these pillars that I mentioned and engagement overall, we're so fired up about the power and the possibility around blockchain. Very quickly on Augeo. We are an engagement technology company where we are based here in Minnesota. We have a global presence. I think we do business today in about 150 countries. We are, and I appreciated the introduction, we are crazily entrepreneurial. I mean, crazily entrepreneurial, and I can say this with a lot of enthusiasm. We just sold the business incidentally to JP Morgan in July, one of our fintech businesses. But over the course of the last 15 years, we literally have done, I think, over $600 million of either buying stuff or selling stuff and growing them organically. And I say that because it generates and informs sort of the enthusiasm that we're bringing to you today. The best part, though, about being an entrepreneur is, like, to this day, when I get to work with people like Peter and the team, I personally wake up every day and I feel like we're just getting started. And that is the sort of the wonder of what we do. And now let's shift just really quickly to sort of the macro trending. So there's a few, as I shared, when we develop thesis for a business, for big ideas, right, that are not just domestic but global in nature, we have to look at what the trends are. So the first one is what we're calling the empowered self. Right? When we think about the defining, I mean, there's a lot of fluff and what is blockchain, what is crypto, what is Bitcoin, it's all fluff and bubbles, is it an investment, should I day trade, blah, 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 right? But when we think about blockchain and that technology, it's decentralized, It's permissionless, meaning we don't need permission from trusted intermediaries. It's trustlessness too, by the way. There doesn't need to be an intermediary. We don't need government approval to engage in what is Web 3.0. So think of DeFi, decentralized finance, right? There's no intermediaries such as brokerages, exchanges, banks. I can be my own bank. That's where this is headed, right? Now, we don't know what form it's going to take, and we have great relationships, for example, across our company with huge banks, some of the biggest banks, certainly domestically, with Visa, with MasterCard, with some of the big processors, FIS, Visa, DPS, et cetera, right? So they are friends. So that's not to suggest people are going to be fully pushed out, but it is to suggest that we are increasingly taking ownership of our digital assets and our identity. So we talk a lot about a consumer-driven world. 10 years from now, it is going to be a consumer world, period, end of stop, right? That is where we're headed, and that is what's so sort of intimidating for all of us, and yet it's so exciting. So we think about chapter and verse, and we're entering a new chapter of the internet, of this journey, and it's one of digital empowerment from 1.0, 2.0 to 3.0. And there's some of the feedback as we're talking to banks, as we're talking to brands, as we're talking to employers. Some of the feedback we get is, "Tell me more about crypto. It's a little intimidating. I don't know what it means." But the consensus, uniformly, 100% of the time, is that there is an inevitability to this motion, to this blockchain motion, to the exchange of digital value, to the exchange of digital assets. So we think about the next chapter and the multiple chapters in this. It's all coming because of this notion of empowerment, this notion of permissionlessness, and this idea of this is about the exchange of digital assets. And the other thing that we're seeing, and some will argue or certainly debate this with us, is when you think about think of Nike, think of Apple, you think about how brands have proliferated for many, many years, for decades even, right? Well, in our view, that is changing not just sort of incrementally, but materially more than incrementally. So much so that ad budgets could potentially be mostly, if not fully, replaced by content creation and influencer marketing. Not so much in the superstar, athlete, entertainer way, but literally, how can your employee be an influencer in your local market, at your local bank, at your local store on behalf of your brand, right? And that's what all of this Web 3.0 stuff is beginning to enable. And that, to us, is what's so extraordinarily exciting. It's the intersection, this unique intersection of economics, commerce, community, experiences, and social in the most authentic way. So this trending is precisely and literally what we're so excited about, and I know Peter's going to share a few more.
Awesome. So, and thanks, David, for the great sort of overarching thesis and themes behind what we're seeing in the market today. Kind of to take a step into what's happening in the market today. Regardless of the price of Bitcoin going up or down, adoption of cryptocurrency as a technology is growing faster than any technology ever introduced. And in the same way that the internet changed the way that we exchange and access information, blockchain is changing the way that we access and exchange value. And this adoption of this new technology is outpacing the early internet, on track to reach over 3.5 billion users in the next 7 to 8 years. But before we dive deeper, let's take a step back. What is Bitcoin? What is blockchain? And why does it matter to every one of us? So before Bitcoin, I'll give a little bit of a crash course here. The only way to exchange something without a trusted intermediary standing in between you was cash, as in physical paper money. And the only way to do that was to physically be in the same room with somebody and hand a dollar bill from one person to the next. Now, the breakthrough of blockchain, the underlying technology behind Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, is that it created a way to exchange value without relying on any single trusted party in between. So what that means is that for the first time in history, we have public infrastructure to exchange something directly from person to person remotely. So Bitcoin enabled the world's first open payment system, where anyone in the world, regardless of race, nationality, gender, or even creditworthiness, can access the financial system with nothing but an internet connection. And to think Bitcoin is just the beginning. The underlying technology is enabling the digital exchange of value of many types of digital assets. So what does this mean? Fundamentally, we see this new technology really enabling new levels of access, meaning that anyone, anywhere in the world, anytime, can access, hold, or send currency and other digital items of value with a mobile device and an internet connection. Number 2 is ownership. For the first time, those assets are owned by you and you alone, protected by your password, meaning it's a true digital wallet, paving the way for the ownership economy, as David talked about, that we're seeing take shape today. And number 3 is trust. You may not trust one single person or business, but would you trust everyone? That's what blockchain does, is it enables a deeper level of trust based on the consensus of a community rather than one single person or business, which really gives way to not only greater security, but as David mentioned, new ways to exchange and interact with others. So the fact is, this is just the beginning of this new movement, and it's a great time as an organization to start thinking about your crypto strategy. So the purpose of today's session is to answer the question that we're all asking, or at least we should be asking, which is where do we begin? So let's start with a couple questions. How many of you from this audience are in charge of people, in attracting or retaining talent, or building a culture of innovation? How many of you are growing a brand, trying to sell more, or build something people love? What does any of that have to do with crypto? Well, we're here to help answer that question by introducing what we've coined crypto loyalty, helping organizations expand their relationships with customers and employees through digital assets. So now I'm going to pass it over to David. He's going to walk through some case studies and what we're seeing in the marketplace in terms of how organizations are engaging today.
Thank you, Peter. And what we're seeing is there's sort of 3 sectors that we're focused on. Financial institutions. In other words, think of when you earn points on your credit or debit card and you go to redeem those points, right? Can you actually redeem for a fractional share of Bitcoin? Would you even want to, right? Second place is in the employee sector through payroll, et cetera, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Third is through brands. Think of what Starbucks just announced and what others have been doing. So in the financial institution sector, here's the ultimate sort of testament that the fintechs and banks, SoFi, Visa has we've been spending a lot of time with the Visa crypto team actually, banks, they're all sort of nibbling. Same idea I said before, which is that banks are like, oh my gosh, it's crypto, it's blockchain, it's NFT, we don't understand it. Even if we do understand it, it creates risk. We can't go there. And yet, they're doing it on the wealth management side, which is a much bigger investment, and they're doing it on the loyalty side. A cardholder wants to redeem their points for a fraction, $20, $30, $50 worth of points for a fractional share of Bitcoin. And what we're seeing relative to loyalty currencies, in particular, is it creates an easy entry point, right? For people that want to sort of play around with it, it's not my compensation, I can play around with it, I can see what works, and it feeds sort of the curiosity of consumers from that standpoint. And incidentally, so that's relevant to us from a loyalty standpoint. Perhaps the most powerful thing from banks is look at this statistic. And by the way, when someone knows they can earn on their credit or debit card points that can be ultimately used for crypto, some version of a leading cryptocurrency, it's driving more spend on the card. What do banks care about? What do social commerce platforms, Google Pay, Apple Pay, et cetera, what do they care about? Right? They want their card and their wallet to be top of wallet. And so if we can demonstrate we can drive more spend on that card, that's our objective. Our objective is not to drive more redemption of Bitcoin or some other currency. It is to drive more spend on that card because that is the objective of our client. When we shift into the employee sector, it's very, very similar. What we're seeing in the employee sector is, and remember, initially we saw athletes. Think of Tom Brady. Pay me in Bitcoin, right? Now it's major teams like the Yankees and the Rockets are supporting it at the organizational level. So there's others starting to do it. So the next generation of workforce, when we think about benefits, think of voluntary benefits at your job. The next generation of workforce is seeking benefits like this. And again, it's about curiosity. So the motion, the momentum is in our favor. But here's the part that Peter might throw up at as I raise this point, which is that this is a person's core compensation, right? And there is risk. There's risk with crypto. So we have to be really careful about how it's in demand. We want to make sure we educate. We don't advocate, we're educating, right? But we want to be really careful about how we bring it out. And the last category is brands, right? When we think about brands are using this as a place to start. Leaders in their respective sort of sectors know this and are adopting. We think about what Chipotle has done. We think about what Starbucks literally last week announced in terms of Odyssey, which allows customers to earn and purchase digital assets, NFTs, to unlock experiences and rewards at Starbucks, okay? And so consumers engage with what they call journeys that draw them deeper into the brand and earn them collectible journey stamps, which are implemented as NFTs. Yet, Starbucks doesn't ever reference blockchain, NFT, or token, even though this is built on the Ethereum network. So what it does is actually still a closed loop system. What they announce actually doesn't have to be on blockchain. But the possibilities of building this on blockchains and creating collaborations with others downstream, other similar leaders in their respective industries that are non-competitors, is pretty powerful stuff. So there's just terrific possibility. By the way, we're seeing brand after brand after brand now either do this or explore. And then we'll talk about NFTs again in a moment. The one thing, though, to conclude this leg of sort of financial institutions and employers and brands is this. When we think about loyalty, think of, again, the most basic way is think about when you redeem your points for a gift card or a trip or a travel or an experience or whatever those things are. There's never been something that has intersected economic value, gamification, and experience all at once, where it's real. And by the way, where it's sustainable. You're not just redeeming your $50 or $100 for that gift card, you spend it and you're done. You're actually redeeming something and you get to keep watching it. And maybe you get to keep building or adding to it. It's fun. It's literally fun. And that's why there's so much power in as we connect crypto loyalty into traditional notions of loyalty.
So now we're going to spend just a couple minutes talking about what we've done based on these insights we've seen in the market, some of the trends that David talked about today. As we've mentioned before, 18 months ago, some of our largest clients started asking us, this crypto thing is happening, whether we like it or not. Our customers are asking about it. Our employees are asking about it. Where do we start? And so ultimately, this led to the development and launch of Heaps, which is our integrated loyalty platform that's designed to plug into any existing rewards program, points bank, or employee platform, ultimately designed to engage employees and customers by enabling the exchange of points, of rewards, of employee payouts, and other forms of funding into leading crypto assets. We've really built an end-to-end experience designed to engage. We're leading with education, the ability to start with rewards and access the world of crypto, and flexible ways to invest through cash, through points, even through payroll and more. And ultimately, even more ways to earn free crypto through your everyday purchases. So I'll take a few minutes and walk through the product. So essentially, Heaps is its own wallet and exchange that enables you to convert rewards or cash into leading crypto assets. We're enabling access to 5 to 10 of the leading crypto assets today that have true infrastructure and use cases beyond pure speculation, unlike many of the other platforms you'll see with hundreds of maybe more speculative currencies on the market. Once inside the platform, users have the ability to securely link a bank to buy and sell crypto with as little as $1. Again, we're encouraging folks to learn and understand the ecosystem. They can set recurring deposits, invest with points, with cash, and soon even roundups, where every time you're swiping your card for a cup of coffee at Starbucks, you're rounding up your spare change and investing it into crypto. And lastly, I guess on that last slide, we're also enabling true ownership. Every user has their own wallet in a one-to-one trust account, which is actually, we've taken quite a bit different stance than the rest of the industry and actually giving users legal ownership over their funds and empowering them with education and the ability to withdraw their crypto to their own wallet or send it to any address that they please. And really core to our thesis, as we've mentioned, is leading with education, really helping consumers and employees begin with an informed perspective by understanding the basics of crypto, of blockchain, and digital assets, and not only the potential benefits, but also, again, the risks that come along with entering the space. We really fundamentally believe that brands should focus on, in terms of the growing adoption we're seeing in the market, facilitating and educating, not advocating, making sure that the experience is brand additive, even on a bad day in the market. Now, one of the unique things we've done is, from an engagement lens, is create ongoing ways to build portfolio value through what we call found money, and more ways to essentially inspire ongoing engagement back to your brand. Through our marketplace, we've created a way to earn free crypto back on your everyday purchases you're already making. We've got thousands of online brands on the platform, hundreds of popular digital gift cards, where every time you're buying groceries from Walmart or making your weekly trip to Home Depot like I do, you're earning free crypto on your purchase that doesn't come out of your pocket. Again, another great way to inspire engagement and to help educate folks without having to tap into their hard-earned dollars. So let's take a second and shift sort of from the consumer world over to the world of employees. Post-COVID, companies alike, all of us are really trying to rebuild what's become sort of a decimated culture, and really finding new ways to attract, to retain, and engage talent. And as demand for access to crypto experiences continues to grow, especially among Gen Z and this next generation workforce we're seeing, we have a potential solution, and that is crypto payroll. We've developed a way to essentially offer access to employees to allocate any portion of their paycheck directly into Bitcoin and leading cryptocurrencies in probably the easiest way possible, meaning that there's no integration required for employers. This plugs into any existing payroll platform, think ADP, Paylocity, Gusto, and many others. It's a simple 5-minute secure and compliant setup process for employees. And ultimately, we're enabling folks to start with even as little as just a couple dollars from each paycheck, and also sort of accompanied with education to ensure that employees, again, are entering with an informed and educated perspective. Really what this is it's an easy tactical way for employers to offer a differentiated benefit in today's world. So I'm going to pass it back over to David to talk about what we're seeing in terms of the marketplace on the NFT side and how that relates to loyalty.
So just one, as confusing as cryptocurrencies are, NFTs are that much more confusing, right? And we do have a view, though, and that is to build on what Peter said in terms of what happened during the pandemic and everything accelerated in terms of the internet and all things digital. At the end of the day, it's inevitable, we keep using that word, that we will be exchanging more and more value, however defined, in the digital market space, right? And because of that, we think that NFTs, not necessarily in the current form, but are going to not just live and breathe, but potentially be massively adopted globally. So we see NFTs as becoming a new way to elevate engagement around consumers, members, cardholders, et cetera. Not today, not yet, but it's coming. And as we think about the layer 2 solutions and what the merge just did on the Ethereum network, it used to be like, think of it, here's an example. Think of the value of an old baseball card that might trade for $50, $100, $150, right? Now think of LeBron putting out just 100 digital images that will only ever be 100 images with some sort of personal signature. Those will have value. And it used to be that depending upon the network, you might, for a $100 LeBron digital card, you might have to spend $100 in what they call gas fees. That's going away. And the transaction fees are becoming very small. So as we think, so there's two things happening. There's one on the tech and sort of the infrastructure side, and there's stuff happening on the actual NFT side as well. There's two big problems in the NFT space. The first is that consumers, we all don't know where to go and buy stuff and what to trust, right? To discover quality and trustworthy NFTs. I was going to say NFT collections, but just NFTs. And the second is brands and creators need a brand-safe way to reach audiences. And so it's still very early days in terms of NFT specialty marketplaces, like think of NBA Top Shop, NFT marketplaces like OpenSea's, Coinbase, NFT, et cetera. But NFTs are sort of on the move. And what we actually firmly believe is that as utility is taking form, meaning stuff that has valuable versus like speculative art. Now, some of you may be invested in like the speculative art stuff, but there's going to be terrific utility, in our view, in NFTs. And whether it's, whether it's the fun stuff like the Steph Curry digital autograph or digital baseball cards, digital access passes. I mean, what Starbucks put out was basically access, right, in terms of what they're building. Digital representations of products like the Nike sneaker drop, and the list goes on and on. So we are in a phase. This will continue to iterate pretty rapidly, but we are strong believers that as we pay attention to it, as we build the infrastructure and the framing for people to redeem again, redeem $50 or $100 instead of that gift card for an NFT, we're going to be first in line to actually bring that out to the world.
So a few closing thoughts to sort of bring this all together, and then we'd love to open it up for Q&A. So we're really in a very interesting time where the individual has never had more power and influence. We're seeing it in the world of work with today distributed workforces. We're seeing the same trend play out across education, across media, across commerce, and the way we transact. And in the world of what we call value exchange, where this idea that anyone can be their own bank, can own their digital assets, and take ownership over their digital identity, which is something we didn't see in the traditional Web 2 world. We believe that there's an inevitability to the exchange of digital assets, however you define it. And here are a few key ways we're seeing organizations capitalize today. Across the financial institution world, we're seeing sort of the easy entry point being crypto rewards cards and the ability to learn and invest through found money. We're seeing Visa and SoFi and others sort of leading the charge in this space. We're seeing major banks starting to enter the fold as well. On the employer side, we're seeing continued demand for access to new optionality and new next generation benefits. With Gen Z entering the workforce, crypto benefits, however you define it, is at the forefront of these conversations. We're seeing, again, athletes sort of leading the charge. We've now got organizational buy-in from the Yankees, from the Rockets, from major hospitality groups to technology companies. And then, in the world of brands, as a way to engage customers through rewards, like what Chipotle is doing with their Buy the Dip campaign or Bitcoin and burritos, sort of introducing the ability to earn crypto rewards and also pay with crypto to buy a burrito in their store. And what Starbucks is doing on the NFT front, we're in the very, very early innings of what could be done there. Really, today's session is focused on answering the question of where can we begin? We really ultimately see rewards and benefits as the easy entry point for both organizations and for individuals into the space. Leading with education makes it experiential, it makes it brand additive, and it's really about providing access to this new ecosystem and ultimately creating new ways to engage, and that's crypto loyalty.
Thank you.
All right, any questions?
With crypto, NFTs, and loyalty, just with everything kind of so brand new in its infancy, right? Us wanting to be, ambassadors of the space. So you have a lot of new people coming in, and then you have an option to kind of cash maybe a portion of your paycheck out in crypto. So my question is just, with kind of being an ambassador of the space, how are you approaching education, right? Because we know that so many new folks are coming in. There's a lot that they don't know. It's a whole completely new language with terms, highly volatile space. And so, how are you educating your audiences there? Because you aren't financial, right, advisors as well. But when you start talking paychecks and having fun in the space, we just want to make sure that everyone's having fun and it's inclusive. And there's that educational component. So I'll just stop and just understand a little bit more on the education piece.
So you want me to start? So we're definitely not, just to reemphasize that, we're definitely not financial advisors. And I think it begins sort of up here and then it comes to here. Up here is sort of the why. And that is, education has to be about explaining the risk, right? In other words, there are those who day trade. There are those who consider this an investment like me or others, just put it away and watch it, right? Instead of trying to figure out what's going to, and there are those that just want to avoid it, they're just risk averse. And so the first part is to help people understand, this is, if you're going to do something risky, This has risk. So, and then the other part of education is, okay, what is that? What is this? Like, and that is sort of to explain what currency, what you know, as you come to the Heaps website, you'll see a whole bunch of educational sort of tutorials around different aspects of what this is. But the most important thing from our perspective is not to be viewed as an advocate for any of this. It's just to be viewed as educational, and for those that, because we're not trying to make the market, truly. We are trying to serve a demand, right? And when there is that demand, we just want to serve it in the most unbiased, most objective way. Let people know there's risk, but if you decide to do it, this is what it is.
I think, yeah, to build off of that, again, we're seeing the demand. Here's how to enter the space with an informed perspective. You've got, a multitude of ways that you can be introduced to crypto. And if you're being introduced from your employer, as an example, I'll give you a great example. If an employer is rolling out a crypto payroll offering, really what we see it as providing the optionality to have access to that benefit. As an employer, we can partner with them and say, hey, let's make sure for the employees that want to engage with this that they're going through a tutorial series and understanding not only the risks but also how the space works, sort of the what as well as the why, and then they're answering at the end of that, as an example, taking a quiz to say, hey, I understand how this all works, and then they can participate. So it's sort of using for folks who are being introduced through an employer, through an FI, through a brand, it's leading with education.
And the other thing I'll add is, as we're all seeing, the regulatory environment is in motion right now, and we're very encouraging of not over the top regulation, but absolute, because in the end, regulation informs and it educates as much as anything else. And so we don't want everything to come to a stop, but regulation is, in our view, is very important. And there's multiple different aspects of this, and I think so. There's that piece of it, and the last leg of it depends on your view relative to recession and what's going to happen over the next 12 months and maybe even 5 years. And if we're hitting a lull, how long is that lull going to last? Because while it affects equities and traditional markets, it similarly likely affects this sector as well.
All right. Unfortunately, we are out of time. We can't take any further questions. We've got to get the next session going. I apologize. I know we've got a lot of questions, but I encourage everyone to hang out and network and ask your questions, in person. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.